Good evening and welcome to the Star Chamber Show live podcast, episode number 431 this evening. And this is Stephen Zimmer broadcasting to you live out of Central Kentucky. And joining me tonight in the co hosting chair from Indiana is the lovely, the vivacious, the loquacious Holly Phillippe. Hello, Holly.
Hello, Stephen. How
There
are
you
you
are.
this fine evening?
I am doing good. Actually, it's been a just busy day. But I definitely
Yes.
had a but I did have a bright spot. I got to talk to Sandy Lender today on the phone. I got
Hey,
to
the
talk to her
genre
a little bit.
blender always
Yes,
brings
the
joy.
genre always brings positivity, and
Yes.
and and, and that's amazing because she's facing hurricane weather that's coming in tomorrow to the Florida area where she
Yes.
lives. And so she has been getting all of her, as you know, she is quite the
Her
avian
flock.
companion. So she's getting her flock all all taken care of and secured in the garage, and
The
everything from
chickens are in the
all
garage. That's what I
the
was getting ready to say. She
chickens are in
she
the
put it in the
garage.
chat room. I was
Yes.
I was getting ready to ask, are the chickens in the garage?
but yeah, I was getting a hold of her today because I sang the praises of her book last week, but I did my infinite wisdom with everything being so crazy and busy, as you know, since we're both spread thin right now with you there, me here, and everything else, and yeah, taking care of family and business. I forgot to send her the blurb, so I did get that to her today. And I'm going to go ahead and read the blurb. Hopefully, it'll make up for me being a few days late emailing it to her. But ring in the
We're a little
holidays.
scattered right now.
Yes, but here it is. Here's my official blurb that I gave her for Silver Bells, her new Christmas horror novel. But this isn't a novel that would appeal to all kinds of readers, let me tell you. Ring in the Holidays with Silver Bells, a thrill ride of a Christmas story from Sandy Lender that skillfully blends elements of thriller, suspense, mystery, paranormal, and horror into an imaginative, wonderfully written tale that readers will love. That's my blurb. So yes, I think and that captures it absolutely. That I'm 100% behind every word in that endorsement, and yeah, great read, and it really does. It is a horror novel, yes, but it has all those other elements, and I think that if you're a fan of like mystery suspense novels, I think that and you typically don't read horror. I think you'll love this one. I think it's got enough of all that it really will connect with you. And really good book, and yeah, thanks to Sandy again for getting the actual physical copy to me to get to look at. I did read it on the back porch on a sunny day with a glass of bourbon, so it was
I look
quite
forward to
nice.
reading it. I
Yes,
look forward to it
yes,
whenever I get home.
yes. Well, that's not well.
It's not too
Good
far
news.
off, thank God.
Yes, the good news continues to pile up. You had
Ah,
you had good news last week that you come home earlier, but then it got even possible that you might get a little earlier with the
yes.
way things are progressing. So it's
Yes.
not much longer. So yes, we'll all welcome that and be very happy. And yes, I see Eva Vertris is in tonight,
Keep
and
on.
shout out to her, of course, and her partner in crime, Dan Klefstad, on Vamp Chat with Dan and Eva, and that is also on Podbean, so you can catch that, of course, on
Yes.
live on Podbean. They do a bi-weekly show. They do a bi-weekly show, and then of course, I'm guessing that they also distribute the finished show after it's live, like we do
Yes.
to Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, YouTube, all those platforms. So yeah, great podcast. If you
Yes.
love
I didn't
and
catch tonight's, but I did tell her about a half an hour ago when I was speaking with her. She happened to actually text me. So um, I told her, that I would definitely catch it tomorrow. I didn't get to tonight because in case you all didn't know, yeah, we live in Kentucky, but I am in Indiana taking care of my elderly mother who fell and broke her leg. But
the exile.
she's
Yes.
doing well with therapy, and hopefully I get to come home in like a week and a half. I've been up here since the 1st of August, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
I need to get back to Kentucky.
Been an adventure, and I did get to see Holly last weekend, and I'm gonna go up again this weekend, and hopefully get her out to Skyline Chili and maybe a movie, and just get her a little break while some family member helps watch her, and that'd probably be Cheryl.
Well,
She's awesome, but however it works out, we're
well,
definitely
I'll
gonna
tell you
do it.
what, too. We've got to take Raven at some point too. The little
Very good.
granddaughter wants to go see the new Robot in the Wild, the new movie. It looks
Yep.
like it's going to be really good. The animation looks amazing.
We could probably do that, yes, but absolutely, and looking forward to seeing Holly, of course. But yeah, it's definitely long overdue to get her back in Lexington. So, but we're all here with you tonight on the
Yes,
air. So yeah, we're all together. So thank you to our listeners. Keep spreading the word.
and
Traffic has been,
Imaginarium is still chugging.
yeah, it's been building. Traffic has been building on the show. We're getting a lot more listeners, and I think that it's been great to be on all the other platforms after the show's air. Definitely seeing a lot of growth there. So thank you, yeah, thank you for listening and supporting the show. And we hope you've loved the recent ones. There've been a run of them with Darrell Miller, Dan Stidham, Judge Dan Stidham, Heather Graham, James Aquilone last week. He was amazing. And of course, Jonathan Mayberry. I mean, the last few weeks have just been awesome. So
And we
looking,
got another one coming up.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. And, but as Holly said, yes, the Imaginarium is chugging. And tonight, if you have not gotten your event tickets or expo space, do so tonight. Yes, in the morning, we will be going back to regular pricing, but tonight, and probably into the wee hours of the morning, you can still get discounted expo space and discounted event tickets. And this is our early bird period. But yes, again, it ends tonight. And like I said, it'll probably go into the early morning. You probably still be able to see it, but tomorrow it will switch over. So make sure you get your event tickets and expo space at a discount. We do that for our regular attendees, so you guys can get a nice break on things. So take advantage of that. I can't. It always
Indeed.
baffles me how people just they don't take advantage of this this big chunk off on this period sometimes.
Hey, the
And you know they're
cheaper,
coming.
the better for me.
Yeah,
So I'd jump on that train if I could.
yeah, they know they're coming, and they do come,
So you
and
might
they
as
get
well
here
jump on the train.
and yet, yeah, some people still always miss the early bird period, and I'm like, we do it for you guys especially. So, well, I do my best, but we do
Yeah.
have some updates. We do have some updates in addition to that. That's of course a very important thing. So tonight, yeah, while you're listening to the show, again, go over there, get your event tickets, expo space at a discount tonight. But we do have a number of new guests and panelists that were announced. I'm not sure if the two of the panelists that are on my list tonight were announced last week in time. They were announced in time for last week's show, so I'm just going to go ahead and include them as well in this list. But it's a good one. I'll start with the panelists, and that would be author publisher Sarah Marion of Per Bostet Publications, and author, editor, publisher, screenwriter Mick Williams, one and only Mick Williams from Trent on Stoke in England. Yes, they're great. These great. Sarah's great, and yeah, they're both coming back as panelists. We also have, also from Per Bostet, author, publisher, graphic designer, and artist T. Lee Harris. Yes, the one and only T. Lee Harris, and
Yes.
author, publisher Amanda Grace Schultz, who I'm really excited about, a first time panelist with Imaginarium. And then we also have some spotlighted guests. We have several that we announced over the past week. One is award winning filmmaker and actor Chase Dudley as a spotlighted guest. And if you remember last year's film festival, he was on set. He was doing production on his newest film, and his film Broken Innocence that was in our festival pretty much swept it. He got 9 awards. Nine
Yes. Yes, it
awards.
did.
Yeah, so he literally got a box of trophies handed to his production assistant the next day, and it was just great. But yeah, he's coming in this time. He will not have a production going on, so he'll definitely be able to participate throughout the weekend. But Chase is coming, and then we also have another favorite of ours at Imaginarium, and that would be multi award winning author, editor, publisher, and screenwriter Barbara V. Evers, He was just awesome. And yes, she said giraffe activist. And yes, you heard that right, giraffe activist. And she's even gotten a Pushcart Prize nomination as well. Just superb talent. And then we have original Dragonlance author and just a brilliant man. Taught for many years the PhD at the University of Louisville. Just a great guy, but he's author and a poet, and that would be Michael Williams. Love Michael. Just that's a wonderful guy, and yeah, you do not want to. I mean, just a great teacher, so you don't want to miss anything that he is on in the programming. And then also, we announced another one near and dear to us: award-winning author, editor, publisher, artist, and game designer Ren Melian, who's also known as Anna Maria Silvaggio. And she is definitely a Renaissance type person. Like you look her up and that term up, and you probably see a picture of her. She's got so many talents. All the things she does extremely well. Game design and illustration and editing, and she does lots of live streaming and tons of stuff. But just another great person. So yeah, that's a big list there, Holly. Got a lot of folks there. But that's it
Yeah.
for me.
Yes,
So
that's it for me. I haven't started on workshops or nothing yet. I'm a little further out, but yeah, it will be soon. Next couple weeks. I got to
yep.
get home and get my thoughts straight, and I will be starting on those.
Well, you are, but you're going to take it very light when you come home. You're going to take about 2 weeks to just recover because you've had quite a run, and yeah, we all
Yes, I
understand.
have.
You're going to take it very light, and you're going to be pampered and get a break. So that's I'm just saying that on air, but you get back. But yes, we have a lot in the works here, and lots more announcements coming. Yeah, more guests being announced tomorrow and Friday, as a matter of fact. So keep your eyes out for all of that and more. But yeah, get those discounts tonight. Don't pass that up. And if you're inclined as a sponsor or individual patron, please come aboard as one of those. Helps us. We are going after some more big name guests, and that helps us be able to meet the needs to do that. So yes, if any of you are willing to be sponsors or individual patrons, not a Patreon, it's a one-time thing. But yeah, please do come aboard because we got some good stuff there. So tonight's show is brought to you by the wonderful Sandy Lender, the genre blender, and that rascal Ren Garcia, one of our favorite guys around who always asks that important question. So I'll give you a little bit about Ren first, and then we'll go over to Sandy. But first, here's Ren.
The League of Elder dares to be unusual. It's easy to be swept away in this bold and uninhibited landscape where fantastic heroes become old friends and sinister villains inhabit every dark corner. Dare to explore things best left alone. Each book is your lantern, lighting the path to a world never before seen. So what do you say? Are you weird enough for us?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are, Ren. And come see us next summer if you're listening. Yeah, no, we got to get you out of Ohio to come down to Kentucky. Yeah,
We got to get him
we
out of hiding.
him out hiding. Yeah, he's such a great guy, and he's a favorite of everybody after they meet him. So I mean, he's just such a great personality, but and a fantastic writer. But here's another fantastic writer, the amazing Sandy Lender, and yes, that aforementioned book, Silver Bells, is the topic of this one. So listen close, and then go pick it up.
What happens when you accidentally schedule a Krampus movie on the Hallmark Channel? You get Silver Bells by Sandy Lender. Silver Bells is a Christmas horror story, and it will be available in print and ebook on Friday, the 13th of September, just in time for Halloween and Christmas greetings. Join Sandy during her online tour for Silver Bells during September. Then join the mature main character, Ivy Light, as she navigates the paranormal upset of spiritual warfare at Reindeer Creek. Finally, join the mayhem of Silver Bells by Sandy Lender when you pre-order and purchase your copy on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all your favorite e-platforms.
Thank you very much, Sandy Lender. And yes, folks, yeah, that book is good for Halloween. It's good for the Christmas season. It'll cover you all throughout the holidays. So go get a copy. It's in print and ebook now. And so, yes, without further ado, I am going to give the intro for tonight's guest. And we have a great one for you, folks. Tonight's guest graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology, pre med, and currently works as a clinical research professional and now lives in a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. And our guest tonight is a first time author with an amazing new memoir titled Exclusively Chosen: My Journey to Purpose, which recounts her spiritual and physical journey from a life altering near death medical emergency to discovering her divine purpose. So, for the first time, I welcome onto the Star Chamber Show. It's my pleasure and honor the amazing Toni Peterson. And Toni, your microphone should be on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be on here with talking with you all. Thank you.
Hi, Toni. It's good to
Hi,
hear your
Holly.
voice.
You as well. Thank you so much.
We've been trying to get this scheduled for a little bit, and yeah, I've had things going on, and you've had things going on, but we have finally done it.
Absolutely. Lots of things going on, I think, on both of our ends, but
Yes,
we finally made it to tonight. So I'm happy to
that's it.
be here.
That's it. We're glad to have you.
Oh yes, and the topic of tonight is right up my alley. I've
Yes.
long time been a person that's read lots and lots of books on near death experiences and of course I love spiritual topics, and so I mean you've got both of them. So when Holly told me
Yes.
that you were going to be on the show tonight, I was just ecstatic, and so yes, I'm also very amped up for tonight.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. That's so wonderful to hear. It's definitely been a journey, so I'm ready to lean in and get started. So
Okay,
Sure.
well, why don't you give us a little background? I mean, we're going back to the COVID time.
uh,
Um, oh, don't it seem like it was like so far off, but it really hasn't been, right? A lot's happened in 4 years. Uh, but wow, that was a rough year. And yeah,
yeah,
I wanted to let you know, I have COPD, and me and Steve were one of the first 2,000 and some people
3,000.
in the
First
state of
3,000 in the state.
Kentucky
Mhm.
that actually got it. And so I was on the phone every day. The health department was calling me and asking me what my temperature was, what my symptoms were. And I had to just go down this bizarre list of things every single day because they were importing information. And
yes,
yeah, I was bedridden for almost 2
Mhm.
months. Steve, he got out of it in about a month, 3 weeks, somewhere in there. He had to help take care of me though in a weakened state because nobody could come help us, because well,
right.
everybody was quarantined. So,
Quarantine.
yeah, I mean, I it was a scary time. It really was. And so I could just imagine. But yeah, give us a background of what was your life prior to COVID
Oh,
diagnosis.
yes, yes. Prior to COVID, I was the typical corporate America girl.
Okay.
I was thriving. I was working hard to make it to up the career ladder and all those sorts of things. And then COVID happened. I always worked from home, so that was not an issue or anything of that nature. But I actually caught COVID in my home, believe it
Oh.
or not. So it wasn't even me going out to catch it. I caught it at home. Yeah.
Mm.
And so yeah, but before COVID, I was this healthy, and I won't say that I'm not healthy now, but I was healthy back then. I was just living my best life, to be
Uh-huh.
quite honest with you. I was thriving in my career. I had just acquired a new role at a new company. So for lack of better terms, I had it going on, Holly. Like
Well,
I
that's good.
did, my life was great, my family
Great.
was great, and things were just awesome. And then it all went
Yeah.
downhill really quickly. Yeah.
So what exactly happened when you first got it? I mean, was you just right off the bat very sick, or I mean, was it a slow incline? I mean, did you start up thinking, "Oh, it's just a cold," and then realize, "Wait a minute, this isn't going away. I've lost my taste. I've lost my smell. Here goes my hair." I mean, what kind of weird
Yeah.
things went on?
Yeah, so I didn't lose my taste nor my
Mhm.
smell. And it was like it started out as a cold,
Yep.
almost like a cold. And then it got worse. And then I was like, okay, do I have the flu now? And so it wasn't making sense for me. And I was like, okay, I felt like I had a cold like on Monday. Now it's like Wednesday, Thursday, and I feel like I have the flu. And I'm like, okay, something is definitely not right. And
Right.
so that I was prompted then to go, that prompted me to go to the ER. Of course, the ER is a zoo,
Yes.
because it's COVID, and you have to wait in so many long lines to be seen. And they were like, "We need to give you a COVID test." And I'm thinking, a COVID test for what? I'm in my house 24/7, so I haven't gone anywhere. Why would I have COVID? And sure enough, the test came back positive. That was around like the first week in February of 2021.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
wow.
then, yeah, so it started out like with a cold, flu-like symptoms and those sorts of
Right.
things, and quickly, rapidly went downhill after that.
Oh,
The
and
the
then you
following, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and then did you stay in the hospital or did you go home and then you ended up back in the hospital?
Well, they gave me the COVID test, prescriptions, of course, and then sent me home. So I'm
Okay.
thinking in my head, okay, they're sending me home, so I'll be better in a few days. That's not exactly my story. That's not what happened. At all. So the very next week, a week to the day later, I I was napping and I woke up and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I feel nauseous. I feel sick." And I remember I had like such a splitting headache that made absolutely no sense. Like it was beyond a migraine. And I woke up, and thank goodness my husband was home. We were quarantined, so he was upstairs and I was downstairs. But yeah, he was home, and I remember picking up my phone and I called him and I said, "I have the worst headache ever." It was the worst headache imaginable. And I thought it was all in relation to COVID, and it was. And I woke up and I said, "I have to go to the restroom." I said, "I need you to help me to go to the restroom." And he said, "Well, let me put on all my gear." So he had to, mask up and put on all of his stuff that he needed to protect himself. He comes downstairs. I'm trying to make it to the restroom because I feel nauseous. And he found me on the floor.
Oh,
So apparently I was on the floor, but I did not realize I was on the floor. But when I was talking to him, he was like, "I can't understand you." So I'm thinking that it was the phone. Something was wrong with the connection
right.
and he couldn't understand me. My speech was slurred. And again, I didn't know my speech was slurred. Neither did I know that I was having paralysis on my left side of my body.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, yeah. And so all of this is a surprise for me. And when my husband came downstairs into the bedroom, he said, "Oh my goodness." He looked at me, and I remember him saying, "Your mouth is twisted." And I was like, "My mouth is twisted? Like, what are you talking about?" I was having a stroke and I didn't even know I was having a stroke.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was really tough. So I was having a stroke, didn't know I was stroking, and thank God my husband was home. He was dialing 911 from his cell phone. Well, that wasn't working because the lines were tied up and he couldn't get through. So he was
Oh,
he was he was alternating between the cell phone and the cell phone and the landline, and he finally got 911 on the call. And I remember her asking me to repeat a sentence. I can't specifically remember the sentence that she asked me to repeat, but apparently it's a sentence that they ask you to repeat to gauge how severe your stroke is. And it must have been pretty bad for me, because the paramedics were at our house, I think, well, my husband said, like, in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Gee. And
Yeah.
you had, I mean, you just had no clue of what was going on. I mean,
I
you're,
had no clue, Holly. And then on top of that, I went temporarily blind. I couldn't see anything. All I
oh,
could do was hear. Yeah. Based on where the clot was in my brain, I couldn't see. I didn't know I was having a stroke. Like, it was a whole ordeal.
Oh, wow. So what happened next then once you got into the hospital?
So I got in, well, actually, before I got into the hospital, the paramedics obviously showed up and they were discussing again. I can't see anything, so I'm relying on my ears at this point, to try to figure out what's going on with me. And I remember one of the paramedics saying to the other, "Do you think we need to lifeline her out of here, like out of
oh,
the neighborhood?" Yes. And so the other paramedic said, "Well, no, I don't think we need to do that, but we really need to get her to the hospital." And so they got me to the first hospital, which I have no recollection of getting to the first hospital. Like, my husband had to fill in pieces for me getting to the first hospital. Apparently, they tried to give me a clot buster medication,
right.
but they they couldn't give me the clot buster medication because the clot was too large. So
Oh,
then
gosh.
they had to reload me back into the ambulance and take me further out to another hospital for surgery.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you were just being shuffled all around.
Yes. I was taken all around. I was poked, probed, the whole nine. And I even thought that was like the end of my story, and it wasn't, Holly and
Well,
Steve.
that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, yeah, do you actually feel like, well, this is it, and you start thinking about things and seeing like basically life flash before your eyes. I mean, and preparing for the death to come.
Absolutely. I remember lying. I remember getting to the second hospital. So the second hospital events I remember vividly. And I got to the second hospital, and I remember my neurosurgeon saying to me, um, "Toni, I'm going to take care of you." And I said, he said, "Miss Peterson, I'm going to take care of you." And I thought to myself, okay, just from my medical background, I knew I was headed for surgery based on the conversation and the questions that they were asking me. Lying on that OR table was it. Not just lying on the OR table, but knowing that my family was not with me because, of course, it was COVID, in the heat of COVID, and no
Right.
one was allowed to be there at the hospital. I remember my husband, he was saying that he would be in the truck, in his truck, waiting to hear something. So I can't even imagine what he went through, just waiting to know if I lived or if I died. It's just, oh my gosh, it's so traumatic. Um, and even now I deal with it, the trauma of it, and try to wrap my brain around all that transpired. So it's definitely been a lot, and that's not where the story ends still.
Well, that obviously not because you're here with us. So where?
Yes.
I mean, it obviously took you quite a bit of recovery. You've suffered this stroke. You've had to get over COVID, obviously. It's had to do something, yeah, with you mentally. I know from personal experience, when I had the first bout of COVID, I've had it 4 times, but it gets, weaker every time. But the
Mhm.
first time, for the first 6 months, I could not think clearly. And I
Yes.
told Stephen, it was hard to explain, but and I, am the program director. I organize, the program for Imaginarium Art Convention that we hold every year in Louisville for, writers, filmmakers, game creators, all the creatives. And I told Stephen, what if I can't do it? What if I don't have my
Mhm.
brain? I said, seriously, I can't organize. So, I mean, I just can't imagine. And then having a stroke on top of that. So, I mean, how was your mental faculties coming out of that at first?
Yeah, I had to go to counseling. Counseling was the best thing for me, and I really had to be vulnerable. And for me, I was such a strong type A person. Had such a strong type A personality
Mm-hmm.
prior to COVID. And so having to be vulnerable with someone and say, look, I'm not okay mentally. I'm not okay, and I feel like I'm having PTSD when I hear sirens and when I
Oh,
drive by cemeteries and all of this stuff, and it's just not okay. And so I had to, Holly, I really had to hunker down and give myself grace. I really did, and say I had to say, Tony, okay, you have gone through a lot. Give yourself a little bit of grace, because I wanted to get back to the old version of who I was prior to all of this happening. But here's where the spiritual piece comes in for you, Steve. Um, so on the OR table, I knew that I had one leg in the living phase of my life, and I had one leg in the death phase of my life. So I knew that I was tinkering between life and death. And I remember vividly, like my grandmother, deceased grandmother, and my brother, like visiting me. Like I could see
Nice.
wow.
them spiritually.
Yeah.
I could see them. And my grandmother was just smiling, but my brother had this look on his face like, what are you doing here? Like, you're not
Oh,
supposed to be here.
it's not your time.
um yeah. And so, um after that, I remember waking up in the ICU. So of course I had to stay in the ICU for quite some time. I was in the ICU for, um oh gosh, I can't even remember how long I was in the ICU, but I remember waking up in the ICU, and I just remember such a presence of God in my room. And
Mhm.
so immediately I said, okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay because God is here. God is here, and I'm going to be okay. And so always kept that in the back of my mind, Holly, even when I was going through counseling and I had, so many questions of like, am I ever going to get back to the old version of me? And the answer was frankly no. Holly, I am nowhere near the previous version I was prior to this experience. I am so much more closer to God and so much more spiritual, and I feel him in everything, like everything that I see, everything that I do, every place where I go, I feel him. And my spirit and his spirit is so intertwined. I always say to my husband, if I'm in a space or in a place that doesn't feel right, I'm like, my spirit is uneasy, because
Mhm.
that's how strong my connection with God is right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That
So
yep.
it was an eye opening
Mhm.
religious experience. I mean, it opened a
Yes.
part of your mind's eye, if you will, that was unlocked. That was locked before. You've unlocked, and in my view, I see it as you have stepped over across. You had like one foot in over the veil, and one foot still here. So you have crossed that barrier and felt those presences of your loved ones, And
Mhm.
it's like it's they have left the love within you that you'll carry now for the rest of your life. So yeah, you're forever going to be changed, you know.
Absolutely. I say to myself and I say to my friends, there's no way someone who has gone through what I've gone through can go back to the same version of
Mhm.
who they were before. Yeah.
It's true.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
true.
that's the part of near death stories I find just fascinating is the just how just transformative it is, and the person, it goes through such a profound experience, and it really does change them, yeah, you can see it in them afterwards. And yeah, I mean, whether I'm reading about it or talking to somebody like you, I mean, it's such a profound experience, and it's hard. Yeah, when you see somebody transform like that, it's hard to say that nothing happened. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's something there. Yeah. So,
Absolutely. And it's so funny. My friends often say, Tony, you're glowing. And I always say, that's God's glow. That's not my
mhm.
glow. I don't have on any makeup. It's not me. That's God's glow. And I used to say, why are people staring at me? I used to like really shy away from that because I was just that person. And so now I'm like, okay, they see the God in me. That's where I am in my journey. I'm like, they see the God in me. And and God had to, it was necessary that I went through what I went through for me to allow God to shift me into my purpose, what I'm doing now. And I'm spreading the good news of Jesus and of God and how he is in everything. If we invite him in, he will take care of us. He took care of me. One of the freaking paramedics, um, he knew me from two counties over. And if anyone knows anything about Georgia, Georgia is vast. And two
Yes,
counties
yes, it is.
away can be like an hour and a half,
Right,
difference in
right.
time. And
Yeah, they're
so,
big counties.
yeah. And so the paramedic remembered me from like 2, 3 years prior when he cared for my son at a Special Olympics event. And he remembered me. I'm like, he has had to have cared for how many people as a paramedic, and he remembered me.
That's
Not by my
amazing.
name. He remembered me. And he said, I remember. He told one of the paramedics, I
Wow.
remember her. I took care of her son. So I'm saying all of that to say, and then I'll stop talking for a little while. But I say all of that to say, God will take care of you. He will take care of you. He will send the right people to take care of you. And for me, he sent his very best. He really did. And so I will love God forever for that.
Well, you're
Well,
talking
I've
Fulton
got a
County.
unique question.
You're talking Fulton. I was just gonna
Go
say
ahead.
real quick. Yeah, you're talking Fulton County, Atlanta. I mean, that's
Yeah,
a big county. That's that's millions of people. I mean, that's a
yes.
Absolutely.
so I mean the odd if you calculate the odds, if you're a math wizard, I mean the odds are incredible that you had somebody come that that knew you like that. It's incredible. So yeah, sorry, Holly, I just want to point that out.
Well, I had a question, and I know you're versed in the medical too. You've went down the whole aspect of this doing research, I am sure,
Mhm.
but you know of the chemical that's produced by our uh, gland during death called DMT. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of DMT, yes. Mhm.
Okay,
DMT, yeah.
so here's my question, but I'll just tell you I'm a Christian Wiccan, so I am it seems a weird mesh to some people, but it works. Um, but my question to you is, what do you tell non-believers, that have no religion,
Mhm.
atheist or agnostic or whatnot? What would you tell them that try to say that the DMT released is making you have hallucinations and you're not really seeing your loved ones? How do you explain that? Because, like I said, I explain it as you've crossed the veil, because I believe in the veil that you did cross over and that they were there greeting you or telling you it's not your time. But how do you explain to someone that you know for a fact you was not hallucinating?
Yeah. Skeptics. Yeah.
Holly, you know, that's
Skeptics.
go ahead, Stephen.
I was just gonna say the skeptics.
The
The skeptics.
skeptics, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there are even skeptics with COVID-19, you know. So
Mhm.
I always the Bible is my guide. And the Bible says for us to not go back and forth and basically argue with
Right, right.
fools. That's what the Bible says.
Right.
And so for me, I won't go back and forth, but what I will say is
Hmm.
that just like with COVID-19, just like with a baby aspirin or any other medication that someone takes, everybody will have their own different experience.
Uh-huh.
So their
Mhm.
experience is not my experience, and my experience will not be theirs. So that I will explain it to them in that text, in that context, because my experience is not going to be their experience. You know, I'm have friends who are devout Christians, and they still question my story. You know,
Mhm.
they
Sure.
look at me a little like they don't question it per se, but they look at me a little strange because they are a skeptic. And
Right.
Mhm.
all I can do, Holly, is share my story and
Yep.
let them know my testimony and plant
Right.
the seed and let God do the rest.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's wonderful. I'm going to give you a hand clap, 'cause
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
That's awesome.
that's all you can do. You know, is you share,
absolutely.
you know, what you felt, how you felt, what you know, because like I said, they have left you with the love that you experienced when you crossed that veil. You know the powerful love that you felt, and you'll carry it for the rest of your life now. And you had such a profound experience that it
Mhm.
completely changed your life, which
Yeah,
no plain chemicals going to do, or taking a drug, because you know you can take DMT. Some people take it to have religious experiences or whatnot, but you know you're not going to have the same experience as what you went through.
Right.
I agree, Holly. Yeah. And I believe that where I am now, walking in my purpose, is such a beautiful space to be. It's such a beautiful space to be. And I was sharing with a very close friend of mine, just 2 weeks ago. I said to her, I said, you know, I don't want to miss the mark. When I have to stand before God and he asked me, Tony, did you walk in the purpose that I created you for? I don't want to miss the mark and have to stand there and try to come up with excuses and explain why I missed the mark. I don't want to miss the mark. And that's my
Mhm.
wholehearted um prayer for everyone in this world to really identify and know what their like, why were you born? You weren't born just to work a 9 to 5. You weren't
Right.
born just to, do whatever it is you're doing,
Right.
for the most part. Like, we are born for a true divine purpose, all of us. And so my prayer and my hope for the population of the world is to really walk in for everyone to walk in their true purpose.
Yes. And then I just made a statement in the chat room, and I'll share it. I said everyone has the right to feel and process their journey on their own terms. So yes, you have that right, and I believe everyone has a purpose. And you know, whether you ever find out verbatim what that is or not, it you know, is questionable. You may never, you know, but you're here for a reason. in the whole
Yes,
scheme of things. And we're here to have enjoyment too. I don't believe we're just put here by coincidence and to live out misery and to not enjoy things.
absolutely.
You
Hmm.
know, we're
Hmm.
here to enjoy too.
Well, I think well, I wanted to get into then, I think next, I'd love to get into what led you to, becoming an author, because
Yeah.
this is because
Ah,
the book,
yes.
Recounts Your Experience, is your first book, and, did you have a background in writing, and what inspired you to write this book and get underway on it?
Oh, Stephen, thank you for that question. I do not have a background in writing. Nope.
Mm.
My background has totally been science. I am a science gal, so no writing background for me. Although I did a short stint recently as a medical writer, but that doesn't count because the book was pretty much already written at that point. But so why I decided to write the book, honestly, Stephen, it was God.
Mhm,
And even throughout the journey of writing this book, I was like, I ran from it for a while. And then I realized that I could no longer outrun my purpose. I couldn't
mhm,
outrun it. So my purpose was going to be what it was. Either I was going to like embrace my purpose or I was going to continue running from it. And it got exhausting. And I was like, I'm not running anymore. Okay, yes, God, I will do it. So I sat down. Now, I will tell you, Stephen, this book was supposed to have been written years ago. Let me just say that. And I ran from it because I'm not a writer, or so I thought. But yeah, and so I sat down and I'm like, the first time I tried to sit down to write a book, I didn't had no story to tell. I was like, I don't have a story to tell. Like, who's gonna read what I have to say? This time I had a true story to tell. Now, did I want it to happen this way that I had a story to tell? No, but that's how it happened. And it was really tough because I'm not a writer and like by background or anything like that. And so I remember the Spirit saying to me, the Holy Spirit saying to me, um, just start. Just like pick up a pen and start. And with your thoughts, just write them down in no particular order. Just start writing things down. And that's exactly what I did, Stephen. I started
mhm,
writing things down. And then I went back and started piecing things together. And I said, okay. And so I thought that the manuscript was done. Well, I will tell you that God interjected himself and said, not done, not yet. And the Spirit said, your book may be the only thing that someone will pick up and see my word in it. So because
mhm,
my book includes scriptures from the Bible.
mhm,
And I thought to myself, whoa, how profound and how like no pressure, God, okay, like no pressure. But I have to give all credit to God because it was not me, Stephen and Holly. It
mhm,
was definitely not me. I have a whole chunk of my brain missing. It was definitely not me. And Holly, you mentioned like the organization and all of that and the brain fog. With
Yes.
all of that going on, it definitely wasn't me.
Yes.
mhm,
Yeah, you definitely had guidance and help.
mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I had to heavily rely
100%.
on God's guidance. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Now, do you feel like now, since it's been a while? I mean, do you feel like you're getting more of your processes back, um, or that you will probably still be missing pieces for maybe quite some time, or you just may never remember everything that happened?
I have come to the conclusion I will likely not remember everything that
Everything.
has happened, and
Right.
that's okay. But I think the parts that I do remember are the parts that God wanted me to remember. You
Mhm.
know, like the first visit to the first hospital. Apparently, it was not like a huge, like it wasn't of significance, like the first trip to the hospital, but the trip to the first hospital, but the second hospital, again, I remember everything vividly, like it happened yesterday. So I just believe that God will. He has. I also believe in science. And it's a such thing called neuroplasticity, where
Uh-huh.
your
Mhm.
brain, the parts of your brain that was connected to the part that you missed, it starts connecting to other parts of your brain. And so I feel like now that my brain is, I could tell when my brain started to go through that phase of connecting to the working parts of my brain.
Mhm.
It's wild when you're inside and your head, and yeah, those pieces start to fill in, and you can
Yeah,
feel the thoughts change, and your processes, and yeah, it's hard to put into words actually unless you've experienced it. It is
mhm.
it's quite difficult. And I was a nurse for over 20 years, so, and I've worked with a lot of stroke patients, and I mean, it's just amazing though how intricate and how amazing our brain is to heal itself. You
I
know,
know. Isn't that amazing, Holly?
it
Oh
is.
my
It's
gosh. Let me tell you, like
oh
that, but that is how God created us, for our bodies to heal our whole brain can heal itself. Like
yes,
that is unexplainable. Like that is just mind blowing. Even for me,
yep.
it's still mind blowing. And I still deal with, to finish answering your question, I still deal with the brain fog. I still deal with some weakness. But if you look at me, you will never know I've gone through what I've gone through
That's
unless
why
I
Mhm.
tell it. Yeah.
we had a question from the chat room. Eva Beatrice is asking, how you're doing health wise today.
Oh, thank you, Eva. Thank you for asking. I feel like I am a renewed person. Like in I feel like God has restored me, but
Mhm.
restored me in such a better way. Um, I still like feel the weakness, but I the weakness is minor. The brain fog, it happens from time to time. I can tell when I'm tired, when I'm really exhausted, I'll have a lot of brain fog. So I have to get a lot of rest. So I make sure that I have implemented self-care for myself and really, really hone in on taking care of myself and eating right and exercising as much as I can and those sorts of things so that I am the healthiest version that I can be. Because ultimately we are God's temple. Like he created us for us to be his temple and for us to spread his word and his love to each other. So that's his way of keeping me on track. That's what I say. That's my
Mhm.
story, and I'm
Fantastic.
sticking to it.
That's it. Well, on
Mhm.
on the subject of the writing, going back to there, it's amazing to me that you were able to write this and never being a previous writer. I mean, did you like do some research? Did you like YouTube some things to? Are you a plotter or pantster? Did you figure this out?
Holly, let me tell you, and I know I keep referring back to how God
Yes.
ordained me to write this book. And I'm sticking with that because I had no previous experience. I did not do any research. I'm a researcher, but I did not do any
Mhm.
research. I didn't look at examples or templates or
Wow.
any of that. And I remember getting to the final place where the manuscript was finished, completely finished. And
Whoa.
I'm like, okay, God, now what do I do? Because this is new to me. I don't know. And
Right.
so
Where did
I
I
was like,
go?
Yeah, I'm like, what do I do now that I have a finished manuscript? So I remember sitting on the sofa, and it was really quiet in the house. And the Spirit of the Lord said, now you have to publish it. So when I tell you God was speaking to me the entire time in order to get this book out, the entire time. And I remember saying, okay, God, but I don't know any publishers. I don't even know anyone. Like, no one I know has written a book. No one I
Wow.
know personally has written a book. So I couldn't rely on like a resource or someone else that had previously written a book.
Right.
I didn't even have that available. So I was like, God, I don't even know any publishers. Who in the world? Like, do I just Google and just eeny, meeny, miny, mo and pick one?
Oh,
And so
wow.
I was sitting there. Yeah. Stephen, go ahead.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, wow, yeah, because yeah, you're just looking at this as a totally new thing, and believe me, from our perspective, we're looking at
Yeah.
that going, "Oh my god,
It's,
you're heading into a minefield because there's good ones, there's bad ones, and everything in between." So, yeah,
Exactly.
it's an adventure. So
Yeah,
what did
and
you do?
I had no idea because I know that there's good and bad in everything. I figured that there were good and that there were bad publishers. And I was like, how do I pick the right one? The Spirit of the Lord said clearly. And it's funny because we oftentimes hear people say that God has a sense of humor, and he truly does.
yeah.
And a sense of sarcasm, might I add. But he said, well, who wrote the Bible? Like, who published the Bible? Oh, I was like, I was like, well, that is a book, and somebody had to publish it. So yeah, so that was a moment for me that I will never forget. And I was like, whoa. So I went and looked, I immediately got up and went and looked at in the Bible, and I looked at the publisher, and that's who I Googled. That was the only publisher, the one and only publisher that I Googled, and I reached out to them, and they are the ones who have published my book.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes. That's a story because yeah, there's been a lot of publishers because it's, a free for all pretty much the Bible. So, a lot of publishers have published the Bible. So that's wild that they took it. That's incredible.
Yeah, who published your Bible? And I went and looked, and I was like, oh, okay. I said, God, okay, that's who I'm going to reach out to, and that's exactly who I reached out to. And apparently, it's really hard for some writers, it's really hard for some writers apparently to get their books picked up by a
Yes.
publisher. I didn't
We're
know
we're
that.
Oh, yeah.
publishers. We're
Yeah, we know,
publishers.
yeah.
Yeah, Stevens wrote many, many books. So yeah, we
Yeah, you
we are in this world and yeah,
yeah,
this is mind blowing. Yeah.
yeah, because a publisher will see a ton of stuff and they just simply
Yeah.
cannot accommodate it all. They have to
No.
make, choices and hard choices often between, great books and they can only
Yeah.
publish so many a year. And so, yeah, I
It's
mean, it's definitely a very difficult thing, especially in today's market when, you have so many people writing.
flooded.
And that's extraordinary. That's
Yeah,
another
Stephen,
incredible story.
yeah, I had no idea. Of course, because all of this is new to me. And so I had no idea until I was speaking with one of my contacts at the publishing company. And she was explaining to me the process because I was very green. I knew
Mhm.
nothing, and they had to really. And I said, you guys have to hold my hand the entire way because at this point, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just going to. I said, I don't want to wing it. I said, because this is a book of excellence, because it represents God. And I do whatever I do in God's name, I do with excellence. Or at least I
Mhm.
try to. And
Right.
so and they handheld, they were amazing. And they were so amazing. They said, we love your book so much. Can you put it in? Have you thought about writing it in a different language? So now I have a Spanish version of my book as well as the
Nice.
English version. Yeah.
Oh, it's
So,
translated. Yeah,
yes, it's
translated
translated.
edition.
So Holly, to your point earlier, about, how the brain reorganizes and heals itself. Like
Yes.
this is a testament to how God allows our bodies to do exactly that.
Yeah, and it looks like your publisher has covered all the bases. You got a hardcover edition, Kindle version, paperback.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like it, I really like the cover. I really like the cover.
Thank you
The-
so much,
yeah,
Stephen. Thank you.
that's a nice looking, and it came out relatively recently, just here in March,
Yes,
March
March
of
of
this
this
year.
year.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's my birthday month. So I decided, well, that'll be a good birthday present to myself. So yeah, March
Yeah, it
March of this year.
looks fantastic. Yeah, I was just looking at the cover image, and I
Thank
think
you.
it reflects what everything you're talking about tonight. It's got a light illuminating a figure in a group of other figures that are kind of in shadow, but this figure is illuminated in the light, and it fits the title, exclusively chosen. Yeah, definitely a really good cover. We as publishers, we tend to really appreciate good cover work. So I have to say your publisher did a good job with this one.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. I won't even tell you like the first cover mock-ups that they sent me. I said, "Nope, that's not it. That's not what God showed me. That's not it. We have to go back to the drawing board." And I said, "I'm sorry." And I kept apologizing. They were like, "That's okay." And so I said, "This is what the Spirit of the Lord gave me. And I don't know how you're going to put it into art form." I said, "But this
Mhm.
is what he gave me." And they rocked it. Like
Yeah,
they truly came
really,
through and
really did a
rocked
good
it.
job, and
Yeah.
and kudos to them for letting you be part of that process, because not all publishers allow authors to be very highly involved in the especially with larger established publishers. They don't often allow you a lot of control over cover work, and so that's great to hear. Actually, that's great to hear that you got to really have a say in your cover.
Every
So this.
step of the way,
Mhm,
I had to approve everything.
mhm.
Everything. Nothing happened without my approval. And
Nice.
I
Yeah.
thought that's how all publishers did, but apparently not.
Yeah, that's fantastic though what they did for you. Yeah, it's really nice, and the fact they gave you a hardcover edition too. That's
Yes, yes, they
that's
did.
nice. And it got released early in this well back in the spring, March of this year, and how long did the entire process take from writing to it hitting the market?
Ooh. Um, The entire process, I would say, Stephen, took about a little over 2 years for me. But
Okay.
I had to be really
Mhm.
dedicated, and that meant I couldn't go hang out. I couldn't go to
Mhm.
Sunday dinner at the friend's house, or,
Yep.
I had to be dedicated and focused because I knew that I had to finish this manuscript and get this book out. So it does take away some of your life, but I promise you, the life afterwards is
Uh-huh.
more than pays for itself. So the life after you completed your book or
Mhm.
finished whatever it is that's on your heart to do creatively, after you have finished it and it's out there, you feel so happy and relieved that all of your hard work has paid off. Yeah.
And now that it's out there, have you been? This is a great conversation starter, especially if we're talking about spiritual topics. And it's obviously a book that's it's not a huge book, so it's probably an easy one for people to want to buy because it's not like a big intimidating 1,000-page Stephen King novel,
Hmm.
something
Right.
like
Yes.
that. Yeah, it's something that's. So I was curious when it came. Now that it's out, are you? And you're in a great place there where you got lots of places that you could possibly speak at. Are you getting out and doing speaking engagements for it, or are you doing bookstore events? What kind of stuff are you doing now to
Promote.
make people raise awareness of your book?
Yeah, Stephen. I actually just completed my first speaking engagement, and believe it or not, it was not local. Now, I was told by the publisher or a contact at the publishing company that I should start local. Well, God had other plans, and I didn't start local. So it was out of state, and it was at a university, and so it was absolutely amazing. And I shared that, sometimes um, it's really hard to, number one, get the attention of young people these
Hmm.
days. And then it's even more challenging to keep their attention. And they were so attentive and engaging. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have found my element. Sitting in my element here. But it was absolutely amazing. I have a few more speaking engagements on the horizon. I'm working on book number 2.
Nice.
And yeah, that's an
I was
exclusive.
going to ask you
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, book number 2. Um, and it'll talk more about like my more about my journey now
Hmm.
and moving forward. And then yeah, just speaking engagements. I have some local things coming up. So it's really moving fast, Stephen. It's real things
So,
are really moving
so
fast
you
for me.
so you have a author journey now as part of your life. This is great.
I
You're
do. I
yeah.
do. And I have such a wonderful boss who understands the bigger picture and the
Mhm.
bigger assignments. And she's like, whenever you need to take off, just let me know. I'll cover and blah, blah, blah. So she understands that this journey is much bigger than she or I. So that's
Wow.
also great
Because
to
this
have.
isn't a journey to, just to sell 1 million books and retire. This is a journey that you wanted to share and share a message. So this is, a whole different
Hmm.
outlook than someone who just decides, well, I'm going to be an author and I just want to write 1 million books, or sell 1 million books and retire. This is, you want to share. You're sharing a story, and it's your
Yeah.
life story. So this is
Right.
very, very personable, and it also, you're bearing your soul. I mean, this is
Yes.
Yeah.
your
Very personal.
experience, your personal
Mhm.
experience.
Absolutely, Holly. And, a lot of my friends and my family could not believe that I had pretty much bared it all, for the public, because
Mhm.
I'm such a private person. They could not believe, but I had to realize that this was so much more bigger than me. This is a story that
Mhm.
will inspire other people to not allow life when it's lifing, life to keep them in such a place where they can't get beyond it. So that's my message. And my message is, God is always there. No matter if we believe in him, if some don't believe in him, that's entirely their right. But
Mhm.
he is always there. He is always there. And that was my takeaway from my journey. God is always
Yeah.
there.
And you evidently have a writing gift and also discovered that
Yeah.
writing is an art form that you are able to express these very intimate things, very personal things. And this is a good outlet for you to do that. And so yeah, you were guided to writing and also discovering your writing talent that has become now a part of your journey. And I can relate to you honestly, Tony, because I grew up in a household that had a fusion of science and creativity because my both my
Yeah.
parents were in cancer research.
Mm.
My dad was internationally known. He's a pioneer in one area of cancer research. They're both passed now, but they were both deeply spiritual people and both love the creative world. And my mom raised me on Lord of the Rings and Narnia and stuff like that, and reading and so I mean we had a fusion of the creative path and the scientific academic path. I had both, and one of the neat things I want to share with you is about my dad is the deeper he got into science, and I mean he really hit the top levels of the scientific academic community. But the
Mhm.
deeper he got into it, the more spiritual it became because he was like the opposite of some scientists I've seen out there,
Yeah.
where they tend to try to resist acknowledging that there's something more to all this. The more more he got deeper and deeper and deeper into science, the more he saw, a presence of something, the big picture, something far bigger. And so he was, that actually helped him become more strengthen his faith, actually getting deeper into science. But I
Yeah.
just thought that I hear a little bit of echoes of some of the things in my own life
Yes.
with some of the things that you've been talking about, and I love the fact that you've got this path that yeah, you've got the science path, and then you've got this
Yes.
creative writing path, and you've got a personal message path, and it's all kind of flowing together now. It's beautiful.
It
I
is.
get it.
I
I
love
get
it.
it.
Yeah,
I
thank
get it.
you, Steve. It's such a great place to be. It's such a great place to be because now all of it is like meshed together. And I'm like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
so now I understand why it was necessary that it happened this way. So now I
Right.
understand that, I had to go through the career part and the science part and thrive
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
and understand that world. Okay, and so
Mhm.
now I've gone through the COVID thing and experienced something to help someone else. So now it's personal and now the writing piece. And so it's all meshed together
Mhm.
and it's such a wonderful place to be.
Well,
So how?
I feel that the more science tries to disprove God, the more they end up proving it. Because
In some
Absolutely.
ways, yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
much that we'll never understand, for one thing,
Especially
especially
when
with
you,
the human mind. I mean, we would just barely
yeah,
cover
yeah,
a little tiny
consciousness and
piece of the
mhm,
human mind, and I don't think we'll ever have it all.
yeah,
And then there's that little part of a thing called the soul, that the
Mm-hmm.
science
Mm-hmm.
is never going to be able to explain. They can weigh it now. I don't know if you've heard about that, but they've done tests where they've weighed people that were passing, um, while
yeah.
they were passing, and there's like this minute weight that does go
Leaf,
from the
yeah,
body that they can't
uh-huh,
explain. So they
at the
have
moment, yeah,
proven there is a release, in the body.
some
But
kind of release, yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and of
Mm-hmm.
It's
course we know
extraordinary.
that to be the soul. But um,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
and that's what I think you make a great point, Holly. And Steve, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You had something you wanted to share?
No, no, no. Continue. No, no. That's
Uh, okay. Holly, you make a great point that the more that science tries to disprove God, God will show up and
right,
just and give them something unexplainable.
yeah,
Like COVID was not new to God. Like that didn't wow him. God knew that COVID was going to happen. We were
right.
wowed. We were like, "Oh my God, the world is shutting down. Like COVID is here." And like it shocked us. It didn't shock him.
No,
mhm.
not in the least.
Well, I've
Not
never
in the
thought
least.
that science and faith have to be like antagonistic or exclusive, away from
No,
each
they,
other.
they need to
There,
be
there's n-
interwove.
there's no, the way I look at it, yeah, that it's a way of studying, the process of how things, are in this world, but it doesn't mean
Mhm.
that there's not a some, a like God or guiding it
Right.
and have created it and things like that, and that's
When
why
when you
I,
work
yeah.
when you work in the medical field, as your parents did too, Steve, but I've taken care of a lot of people on their way out, and been with them when they were passing over the years, and then taking care of their bodies afterward. I mean, yeah, you have that medical side, but there's a spiritual element to that. You feel that presence when it happens. I've
Mhm,
been with people when their family wasn't there. It was just me, and they haven't got there in time, and it's awful. But I wasn't going to let no patient die alone. So of course, we stay with them. But yeah, you feel that presence. There is no denying that.
mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And but are you gonna so now that you have the writing passion
Right,
now, do you see yourself continuing on this after book two? Do you see yourself becoming a writer for a long time to come? Have you enjoy the process now? and
See, I am enjoying the process. As tedious as the editing part can be.
oh yes, I'm an editor. I know how it gets.
I
Oh
am
my
too. We're both
gosh.
editors.
Oh my gosh, as
Yes.
tedious as the editing part can be, I do
Yes.
feel like I am going to ride this until the wheels fall off. Absolutely. Because I truly believe sharing whatever is inside of me and putting it on paper
Mhm,
is going to help someone. Even it helps if it helps one person,
mhm.
I can stand before God and say, "You know what, God, I did my best."
Yes,
I
I did
did
my
my
Nice.
job.
best with what you gave me. With what you have given me, I have done my best.
Doing the Lord's work, as we
Yeah.
tell the grandchildren. Our oldest
Yes.
grandchildren, they do a lot of work in the church. The one plays drums, and this church is almost 700 people, and we're like doing the
Yeah.
Lord's work. We're always telling them, yeah,
Yes.
yep, yep. That's
Yeah.
They're good.
exactly it.
They're great kids. But this is just fantastic, and I have loved listening to your
Yeah.
story. And where can folks connect with you online? I'd love to give people a way to find you and find your work. What platform,
Absolutely.
websites, social media that you use, whatever, tell us about all that.
Thank you, Stephen. My website is exclusively chosen dash T as in Tom, D as in dog, Peterson, Peterson.com. And I am also on Facebook, and you can find me
Mhm,
by just simply typing in my name, Toni Peterson, or on
mhm.
Instagram. And my handle on Instagram is author underscore Toni, Toni, underscore D as in dog, underscore Peterson. And that's where
Nice.
they can find me.
Great, great. And do you have any, you said you have some events percolating. Do you have any that you would like to promote at this time as far as events that may be coming up that maybe our listeners in your area might want to know about? Or are those
Um,
still not released dates yet?
Not release dates yet, but
Okay,
I will, if they follow me, I will be pushing that all of that information out on my social media pages and my website.
fantastic, fantastic. Well, Holly, is there anything that you could think of that we have not covered? Because this has been a very thorough conversation for sure.
Well, I just like to say thank you, Tony, for sharing your story and for being brave and going out on a limb and trying this. I mean, you were starting from no writing experience to published author, and that's a scary jump, and that's a jump
Mhm.
a lot of people won't even ever take, and it's a shame. And I applaud you for that, and especially with the
Hmm.
message that you're sharing and
Hmm.
your profound personal experience. Thank you.
Thank
Hmm.
you so much, Holly. Thank you so much. This absolutely means the world to me. Thank you both, Stephen and Holly, for having me on the show to really speak with your audience about my journey. I hope it helps someone. If it's just
Hmm.
one person, I hope it inspired someone.
Well,
Yes.
you inspired
Put
me.
the movie out
So
there.
so you already got one. You inspire me.
Fantastic. I'll
Yes.
take it. I'll take it.
And please do. We want to keep in touch with you. And when your next book comes out, we'd love to have you back on the show. And yeah, we'd love to have you continue to be a guest and keep us up to date on your journey and adventures and events and all the great stuff that I see ahead of for you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, Holly.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
And you have a blessed evening and enjoy the rest of your week.
I will. I hope that we don't get too much rain because we're getting a little bit of it. But
Yes,
nonetheless,
you're in
thank you so
Georgia.
much.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm in Georgia. So thank you so much, both Stephen and Holly. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Take All right, Holly.
Take care.
It's turn it over to you to do the honors.
All right, darling. Join us next Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in tonight, by the way. And join us next Wednesday on Podbean. Same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another great show, another great guest, another great talk. Hopefully, you were inspired tonight. So get out there and make something. Be creative for the rest of the week. Good night, all.